Hey there, fellow city builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here, and I have some exciting news to share with all of you City Skylines enthusiasts out there. The developers of Cities Skylines 2, Colossal Order, have just dropped their latest dev diary titled Zones and Signature Buildings. Brace yourselves because this dev diary might be the most information-packed one yet. In this action-packed video, we'll be diving deep into the world of zones and signature buildings, exploring the exciting improvements and features in Cities Skylines 2. But that's not all. We'll also be taking a closer look at how these zoned buildings operate, the goods they require, and how you can optimize and improve their functionality. One standout feature discussed in this dev diary is the introduction of modular farm fields, allowing for more customization and flexibility in agricultural areas. This also applies to ore districts as well. Get ready to design your own farming layout and witness your rural landscapes flourish like never before. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The developers have also implemented more flexible building themes, giving you greater control over aesthetics and the character of your city. Prepare to create a unique and vibrant neighborhood that truly reflects your vision. That's right, the developers have listened to our requests and we can now create dynamic zones that combine residential and commercial. Say goodbye to those rigid zoning boundaries and embrace the versatility of mixed-use zoning. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future updates about the exciting news around Cities Skylines 2. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and share your thoughts and ideas on the new zoning and signature buildings, or if I missed something, because there is a ton in this dev diary. All right, my fellow urban visionaries, let's not waste any more time. Join me as we embark on this exhilarating journey through the world of zones and signature buildings in Cities Skylines 2. Get ready to shape your cities like never before. Okay, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that this video is jam-packed with stuff, and so is the dev diary. So please stick around for the whole thing because wow. Tons of stuff I didn't expect. So honestly, let's just dive in. There's really not much else to say.
Every decision you make weaves a thread into the fabric of your city. But don't for a second imagine a smooth, seamless surface. Cities don't work like that.
These docks are very interesting. I don't know which city we're looking at. I think this is $2.20 city. I could be totally wrong. But they're very interesting because the road's obviously on the outside. There's no seawall that created them. So I don't know if they just used the terraforming tool and then placed the roads, or I'm curious how these were actually built.
Instead, it's an urban patchwork marked by the realities of life and living.
Beautiful shot.
And stitch it together.
It does appear we have some kind of cell phone tower building. I don't know if this is like part of a unique building or maybe it's some kind of city service that you have to build. Maybe you do have to have cell tower service. I mean, that's a potential. I doubt it, but you know, it's definitely a possibility. Also, very nice bridge down here.
Zoning lets you decide where people live and work. You create these residential, commercial, and industrial zones with zoning tools. Okay,
so we're gonna pause right here. We're going to start getting into our zoning tool descriptions. They do confirm mixed use.
They work in a couple of different ways.
Oh, that was our first view at commercial. Let me go back to that. Right here, commercial zones. The commercial zones are various types of businesses and services. So this is our first look at the commercial tab, which is a very lackluster in comparison to the residential tab. The residential tab obviously has 6 options, plus with 1 mixed use. So technically, if you really want to get into it, there's 3 commercial. But there is only 2 right here, low density and then high density. And then over here on the left, we have commercial info view, with commercial buildings, commercial signature buildings, and then the commercial suitability and customers. And suitability is going to be very important. So if we look around the city, we can see some signature buildings in some specific locations. And then we also can see that the commercial buildings are highlighted in blue. So we can see the commercial clusters in the city. My assumption is that the green buildings are the customers, which are residential. So you know where you're placing your commercial buildings is potentially close to residential, so people don't have to travel very far. And then you also have these gray buildings, and my assumption is that these gray buildings are, in fact, offices, because there is no connection between commercial and office specialization that is inherently necessary when zoning.
Different ways. Click and drag over cells on the map to zone large rectangular areas. Zone all adjacent cells with 1 click. or get granular, zoning a neighborhood cell by cell. When you establish...
This is our first view at the game selection screen. I'll go back to the actual new game screen really quickly. So this is the main menu of the game. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the final main menu, because let's be honest, the game is still in early development, and UI stuff is usually some of the last things that developers do. So this could fundamentally look completely different. But something I've been very hopeful for, that I think a lot of people, this could be very controversial, so let me know down in the comments down below if you disagree with my opinion on this, but I have been hoping for a move off the Steam Workshop, because I think it's very unfair to people who are playing on different platforms, not necessarily console, because I'm not a modder, I'm not an asset creator, I don't know what goes into making those, and I don't know what it would take to get a mod onto Xbox or PlayStation or whatever other platform, Switch if it eventually comes out for that, what that would take for people on those platforms to get access to those mods. But people who play on the Windows Store and people who play on Epic, who I know a lot of people who have the game not on Steam who just don't have access to mods or assets. So I've been cheering and chanting and hoping that we would move off the Steam Workshop to open up the game to way more people, because mods open up such a massive landscape for people in Cities Skylines 1, and I'm sure the same is going to be true in Cities Skylines 2. So seeing Paradox mods here is something that is very awesome to me. You know, all Paradox's games really rely on their modding community. Stellaris have been playing quite a bit recently, and they pitch mods. They try mods to me all the time. So, and I think they use the Steam Workshop as well. So this is great. Log into your Paradox account and receive the medieval castle for free. So we get a medieval castle asset. You can see it kind of up here on these cliffs. So that's the Paradox Plaza of this game. So I'm very happy to see that. So if you're not, let me know down in the comments down below. I know it's really easy to use the Steam Workshop, and sometimes third-party workshops can be a little bit of a hassle. But I think overall, I think this will be better for keeping the whole community together in how we play the game. So this is the new game screen. So much like in Cities 1, where we'd click it and then it would show us a map, this one gives us a nice big overview picture of what the map looks like, a nice top-down look, so we can really get a view of where we are going to be building. We have this mountain village over here, which looks like a valley. We have these nice ripped up lakes over here in Lakeland. We have San Francisco, which is a actual height map of San Francisco. So does that mean that this game is going to be a lot easier? Now, granted, you can import height maps into Cities Skylines 1 to create maps. Is it going to be easier to take real geographical data and turn that into a realistic looking map in Cities 2? Very hopeful for our map creators out there, like Teddy Radko or Sanctum Gamer, who made Map Pack 1, to be able to use the new features if they do exist. They don't talk about it at all, but just really cool, this new map view. So a chain of islands enveloped by water. This map is comprised of atolls, lagoons, peninsulas, a highway running across the map across the map that connects some of the larger islands, while also providing a connection to the outside world. The buildable area is split over several pieces of land, which offers a range of options for traffic over land, water, and air. So we have a European theme. It tells you the climate, so it tells you what the high and low range is for the area, and then I don't know what the rain symbol means. I don't know if that means that we're just going to get more precipitation in this map, if it's going to be rainier, or if that's a symbol like, hey, it doesn't get cold enough to snow. My assumption is the latter of the two, but who knows? This also says it is in the northern hemisphere. 16% buildable area. Now, that's very low in Cities Skylines 1 terms, so I have no idea what this statistic is going off of. It has every outside connection, including power, so you can have maps, I guess, without a power connection where you can import or export power. So that's really interesting. And then it tells you how much of each natural resource there is. Obviously, farmland is not based on tons, because tons is the produce that you grow. So it's based on kilometers squared, and we will see how zoning industry buildings works, at least in the farm industry. Get ready for those farm fields, folks. So that's coming up later. I'm so excited for this game. So we have all this other stuff. It shows off oil down here or forestry. Very cool.
Establish a city, you choose a map.
All right, so then they've selected barrier islands. This one's North America. It says 10 degrees Celsius, 29 degrees Celsius. It's in the southern hemisphere, but it's the North American theme. I believe the latitude just probably determines seasons, is what I would guess. So that your seasons are just different in different times of the year compared to Cities one, which I guess didn't necessarily need that because it's not like we really have a north, south, east, and west in Cities, at least up until this point. I don't mean maybe we do in this game, but we really don't have a cardinal direction to look at. So my assumption is that this just determines when your seasons are going to be. 41% buildable area, which is definitely different on barrier islands. Okay, let's keep going.
The map's theme dictates.
And then we have Great Highlands. So then this is the European theme. Craggy hills, flat top mountain ranges dominate this map. Long, narrow lakes split the land into places. White plateaus between the mountains offer white plateaus. While plateaus between the mountains offer suitable locations for city building, the coastline, while dotted with rocky islands, affords traffic by sea. -3 degrees Celsius. It has sunny and rain climate. Again, still don't know what the actual climate symbol is referencing because it does go to -3, but we haven't seen the snow symbol yet. So I don't know what this symbol's for, but this is a European theme. Tells you all the other stuff as well.
Choose a map.
We didn't read the barrier islands. A long chain of barrier islands has huge potential for prime real estate right from the start. Highway and rail tracks follow the coastline on the mainland, which is separated from the islands by a large bay. An existing ship lane runs across the bay and connects it to the open ocean. And this map also has the sunny symbol. I don't know if we pointed that out.
The map's theme dictates if your city's buildings will.
All right. So I'm kind of talking a lot over the narrator here, but obviously we have the city name that we can name. Left-hand traffic. So for those of you who are asking in my comments about left-hand traffic, we are getting left-hand traffic. So they've already confirmed that in one of the dev insights, but here it is, just fully confirmed here. Natural disasters. That's in vanilla. I'm very excited for this. Unlock all unlimited money straight from in here. You don't have to go into the content creator mod menu to enable it. You just get it right when you start the map up, which is very cool. You can disable tutorials, so this will be really helpful for new players. I hope that the tutorial system is very good for new players as well. And then you can pick the map theme. So hopefully this will be expanded on with maybe some content creator packs that will help you pick your map theme straight from the bat. Now, when you're building, you'll learn later, you can change that map theme zone by zone as you're building, which is super cool.
Have a North America.
So select the visual style of your building, select vehicles, roads, road signs, and traffic lights. So it changes a lot more than just the actual buildings that show up. It changes things like roads and the signs and the types of traffic lights that you actually have access to. You can still change the style of buildings during the game, but the other style choices will remain selected here. So you have to pick in the beginning, how do you want your roads and street lights to look? And then the rest of it is fully customizable in game. So buildings are no longer locked to that European style or the American style when you start the map. So that's pretty cool.
American or European architectural style. You can now use zoning tools to mix it up.
Oh, look at the shadows.
Come on, sprinkle a little North American flair into your European city.
So the construction view for the cities actually being built, there was very clearly a transition. So I don't know if they just don't have the animations for buildings being built done yet. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the least priority focus aspects of their development, to be quite honest with you. But it does appear like we have these cranes come up, there's a bunch of smoke, and then they just kind of get built after that, which is where I think that they are actually doing like a video edit for it. So, but anyways, this is a really nice shot, and we get to see some different building styles. We have some European buildings and we have some American buildings all in one.
Or vice versa. Okay, you know how zoning tools work, but what can you zone? Well, let's start with residential zones. The places and spaces where citizens relax with friends, raise families, and rest their heads night after
Homes
night.
look great.
There are now 6 residential zones.
Notice how it says North American style at the top. I don't think it said that before. So NA mixed housing. Look at this, because we have NA selected. But I think, don't quote me, I think this is a European map that they are on. So that's why it specifically is stating NA. So that way you know when you go to place it that you're not using your conventional map theme. So it says NA mixed housing. And notice how it says mixed housing. It says it. North American style apartment buildings with commercial spaces on the bottom. I mean, like, if they didn't confirm, I don't know. I can't remember at this point if they've confirmed that mixed use housing. Now, I know we've spotted it and been like, this has to be mixed use. And everyone's kind of been like, this has to be mixed use. But they fully confirmed it at this point, which is very awesome.
Types. 2 will be familiar: low density housing, detached houses for single families, and high density housing, tall towers packed with residents. New zoning types include medium density row housing.
Dang. This looks so good compared to Cities 1. I just can't. This low density row housing. I paused right over it. I'm sorry.
And medium density apartment buildings. There's low rent housing now too. Huge apartment buildings with tiny apartments.
I want to go back. I want to go back for a second. Hold on.
Buildings with tiny apartments. Medium density.
There is garages built into this building. Is there a certain number of parking spaces that are allocated for this building, or is every resident guaranteed a parking space for their home? Could this be an underground parking garage for this apartment building? I am actually incredibly curious how we're going to deal with parking in residential areas, because everyone's car has to kind of be there kind of towards the night. So how are we going to be able to deal with the amount of parking? Are all the residential buildings just tasked with having their own parking lot that fits the needs of all the potential residents? I'm very curious about that. And I see these garages and it makes me think, well, maybe there's an underground parking garage.
Apartment buildings. There's low rent housing now too.
And low rent
Huge
housing,
apartment buildings with tiny apartments. Finally, there's mixed housing. Here, residents live in apartments above ground floor shops. Mixed housing adds next level realism because homes and shops rub elbows like most real world city centers.
Heck yeah.
Ready to talk business? You'll create dedicated commercial zones where companies sell the
So here again, we are looking at the commercial thing. These are signature buildings, and then this is low density and this is high density.
Locally produced and imported goods people need and want. Your commercial zones are also where citizens and tourists eat out, catch the latest blockbuster, and dance until dawn. You'll establish industrial.
Look at this industrial thing, huh? And notice anything weird about it? Notice how it's a huge area? Notice how it's not just like one big structure and it's got like a weird border to it?
Zones with factories, workshops, and warehouses where businesses can store goods ready for distribution or export. You'll also develop office zones. Here you'll find small, low-density buildings with only a few businesses in operation. You'll also get the glittering, high-density towers that define your city's silhouette in the sky.
I don't know why, dude, but this dev diary has made me the most excited for this game. This dev diary has made me the most excited. I am like brimming with excitement. I can't stop smiling after watching this video because there is so much cool stuff in it. So many quality of life improvements and like so much more depth to how you can actually build your city now that I'm just brimming. I'm brimming with it.
City and zoning go hand in hand. Here's an example. You zone residential areas that boost the population, and with it, the demand for jobs. You respond.
This is what I was getting at with the ore mining. This is a modular farm field. So if you've ever played with any of the mods that exist in Cities 1, where you can build large swaths of farm fields that I think they're actually only decals. I don't even think they're usable. Maybe they're props. They're networks at least. In Cities 2, you actually can adjust the size and borders to fit along the road. So you can actually create a real full farm field, which is incredible. I'm so excited. Produces vegetables. Company's almost meat. All buildings now will also have 3 tiers. So it's no more 5 tiers. So it's no longer like the Cities one, where industry only has 3 tiers to it. All of them will have 5 levels, but they only change their look every 2. So at level 1, level 3, and level 5, they'll look different. So level 2 will look like level 1, and then level 3 will look like level 4. That was how it was explained in the actual dev diary itself. But anyways, this over here is the almost meat, and you can actually change the borders. So this is kind of like Industry's DLC being included in the base game, in a sense.
By creating an industrial zone.
Look at that. And then, so obviously you could probably make this look a little nicer. I don't know if there's like a node limit to the number of nodes you could put on this farm field to make it jagged, but pull it over here, pull it over there, make it actually fully. You could have a full farm field here, which is crazy.
With factories where people get to work.
Look at that. And then now we just have this cool farm field over here next to this actual industry area. I'm sure this pollution may be a problem. Who knows? But very cool.
These factories produce goods, but they won't stay in business long without somewhere to sell them. You solve that problem by expanding commercial zones. You see? Each zone helps create the momentum you need to realize the city of your dreams. And it wouldn't be the city of your dreams without signature buildings. These are unique residential, commercial, industrial, and office buildings that you unlock as your city expands. They're free to build, and you
free to build. These signature buildings are free to build, and they're going to talk about them in a little bit here, but I want to stay paused so that way we can see. This is switch on from humble toaster to the shelf organizing stock drawer, or sock drawer. This factory makes everything that runs on electricity. Plus 2% industrial efficiency citywide, and plus 1 college graduation chance citywide. Something that they mention, and they might mention it in the video, but they definitely mention it in the dev diary, is that these buildings do also sometimes have district-specific specialization. So they might only improve things for your district and not for your entire city. Tells you noise pollution, air pollution, and ground pollution. And these are free to build.
You can plop them anywhere. Plop. It's Cities Skylines lingo. Go on, say it. Plop.
Boop. I feel like I'm joining a cult by doing that.
What's so special about signature buildings? Well, they function like any zoned building.
So we have commercial mixed use signature buildings. So mixed use gets its own thing right here, right? So we have residential, mixed, commercial, industrial, and office.
A home for people.
So pretty cool. We get to see all the info views as well as we go through. There's really not much more that we need to necessarily look at in each of the info views.
Warehouse for industry, an office for workers, but they can elevate the neighborhood in unique ways. Signature buildings can also bring citywide benefits. Zone and place.
So I let that play a little too long. Hold on a second.
Zone.
Okay, a modern classic that puts a smile on the face of its inhabitants. This is Corundum Condos.
And place your signature buildings carefully so each city district flourishes and plays its part in the success of the whole city. Life's rich tapestry has never been richer than in Cities Skylines 2.
So that's the end of the actual video, and the dev diary is filled with a ton more information. So we're gonna move and hop on into that right now. Before we move on to the actual written diary section of it, I just want to thank you guys all for the support so much. These videos are genuinely the highlight of my week, and I love making them, and I love that you guys are all very appreciative of them. So first off, thank you so much. Secondly, if you guys do want to support the stream, I have all my links down below in the comments. There's a link to my link tree. You guys can follow me on other platforms, and if you guys are looking to buy a game like pre-order Cities Skylines, you guys can use my Humble Bundle link, which I have a direct link to the actual Humble Bundle purchase page for the Cities Skylines 2 Ultimate Edition, or you can go in my link tree and actually just click on my Humble Bundle link, and you guys can purchase games, help donate some money to charity, and I get a little kickback as well. So I just wanted to shout that one out before we move on to the actual dev diary. All right, let's dive right in. Okay, now as you guys know, I usually cut out some sections of it that are kind of just repeat wording or not really necessary to talk about or bring up, because I don't really feel like they bring anything to the table in terms of content, just to keep the videos a little shorter. So if you guys are interested in reading the whole thing, obviously the link will be in the description down below, and so will the link to the actual dev diary video, but you can find that here in the actual dev diary right here. So as we move into it, you guys might see me cut some stuff out, but feel free to come back and look at it if you choose. I like this little quote that they have at the top here. If roads are the bones and arteries of your city, then zones must be the meat fleshing out the city. I really like that analogy. I think that is a pretty good one at how zoning is compared to the actual road construction. You build out the bones of the structure, the skeleton of your city, and then your zones fill everything in and create the monster of your city. In here, zoning tools. The zoning tools feature the familiar options: fill, marquee, and paint tools. The fill tool fills all the continuous zoning cells with a selection of zone type. We already kind of saw all this, so I'll skip all that. And then at the very end, it says, want to create a separate 2x2 residential zones? With the paint tool, you can. And we saw in the trailer how they had European buildings right next to American buildings kind of speckled in and out. So I think even though you visually won't be able to see it, you could just do like a 4x4 section, or I guess in this game it's 6. So you could do probably like what, a 4x6 section of American, and then 4x6 of European, and then you could do that down your entire city, which is pretty cool. That adds a lot more flexibility and customization to actually how you choose to develop your city and how it actually ends up becoming and how it looks. Dezoning simplified. This is really nice, but basically anytime you right click, it will remove it, which is actually fantastic. And if you want to change the zone type, you don't have to remove the type that was there in order to place it. So if you want to convert something over to commercial, you don't have to remove the residential and then place commercial. You can just place commercial over top of the residential, and it'll get rid of the residential, which is a very nice quality of life fix. Honestly, that's something that I'm surprised we don't have a mod for, and if there is, I've never even heard of it. So that one's pretty cool. Next up, they just kind of go over the actual residential zone type. So we have North American on the left, and then we have European on the right. Really not much else to this one that wasn't covered in the dev diary, and then we move on to zone types. Residential zone types have been more than doubled, featuring 6 zone types to create a more diverse and realistic city, which is absolutely fantastic. The familiar zones are still available with low-density housing, with detached houses and high-density housing with tall residential towers. The new residential zone types include medium-density row housing, which we've seen many a times in the trailers, with wall-to-wall homes, medium high-density housing with apartment buildings, mixed housing with shops that occupying the ground floor and apartments taking up the rest of the building, and then low rent housing with large apartment buildings housing lots of small apartments. Low rent housing is especially useful for low income residents such as students and young adults who have moved out of their parents' house to live on their own first apartment. So that's really nice. It actually gives us a nice, good depth of development in how we actually build our city. We know we should put those low rent housing near youthful areas like the university, for example. Low and medium density housings tend to have larger apartments, which most residents find appealing. However, the cost of living is usually higher in smaller buildings such as detached houses, row houses, and medium-sized apartment buildings, as the costs are divided among fewer households. Increasing the land value also affects smaller buildings. I almost said similar. Almost affects smaller buildings as more as it affects the size of the rent in general. On the other hand, high-density housing can fit a lot of people in small areas, but its main negative aspect is that the apartments are usually small. Conversely, the rent is also more affordable in these buildings, as the building's upkeep is divided among a large number of households. Mixed housing seeks to bring more realistic feel to the game, allowing you to build a more traditional city center where commercial and residential zones coexist. Yay! Mixed housing also answers 2 different types of demands: medium residential housing and commercial, allowing both to occupy the same precious space in busy city centers. Commercial businesses pay a portion of the rent for the mixed housing, which causes the rent of the households to be more affordable. so maybe even more desirable. Also, you're very close to commercial, so like that could make these apartments sell a lot quicker potentially. I also hope, they don't mention it anywhere in the dev diary, but I do hope that commercial's noise pollution is severely taken down in Cities Skylines 2. Unless you're in like a really packed, dense city like New York, you know, commercial businesses, especially like high rises like that, like aren't the noisiest thing in your city. So I was always very annoyed with high density commercial structures being one of the largest noise polluters in Cities Skylines 1. So I hope that's been taken down quite significantly, but we'll see as the more and more details come out for the game. Commercial zones feature low and high density buildings where companies sell their goods manufactured locally or imported from outside connections. This includes everything from cars and groceries to clothes and paper products. So citizens have to buy cars, so there might be like a car dealership or something. And they also provide citizens with leisure options in the form of restaurants, movie theaters, bars, hotels, and more. Commercial zones thrive close to residential areas as they provide them with customers. And as we've seen in previous dev diaries, there's different commercial types. It's not just goods now. Like some things produce food and other things produce software and other things produce media. And so citizens will consume all of these different things, and those will generate and lead towards different commercial buildings. Dude, the depth in how everything gets produced in this game is making me very giddy. Commercial businesses offer a range of goods and activities for your citizens to enjoy. Here's a gas station, which is pretty cool. And I actually skipped some stuff, so let's jump back up. The low density businesses are usually boutiques, gas stations, small stores, and bars, while the high density businesses tend to be supermarkets, department stores, and various recreational locations such as theaters and hotels. So there is a gas station asset as well. And as we've learned previously, you need fuel as a cost for citizens in their cars. Is it really that in depth that they have to go to a specific gas station in order to fill up, or can they go to any business that maybe sells petrol or fuel? I'm very curious to find this out, but just another layer of depth. And also there's supermarkets. They even claim that there is a supermarket. How big are those supermarkets? Are they like the shopping mall supermarket unique buildings that we got in the shopping malls DLC that is made by King Leno for Cities Skylines 1? Or is it, are they just gonna be like the normal zonable supermarkets? I want them to be the big ones. I would love to have a realistic big supermarket in, so hopefully that is included. There's just so much that I wanted out of Cities Skylines 1 that is actually in this game, and it is making me so excited for Cities 2. I've never, of all the dev diaries, this is the one where I was like, man, I'm so excited. This also means that they're able to sell more goods from their stock compared to smaller low density businesses. Commercial businesses, blah, 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 blah. We already read that. Commercial businesses benefit from local manufacturing as they have quick access to goods they are selling. Local manufacturers also benefit from nearby commercial companies as the transportation cost of manufactured goods to retailers are low, allowing them to earn higher profits per sold unit. We're going to learn a lot about how costs actually severely contribute to buildings leveling up. And when buildings level up, they help level up the buildings around them. So we'll learn more about that here in a second. But so it does seem that having commercial close to actual manufacturing is very good. And commercial does seem like a great buffer district, much like in Cities 1, between industrial and residential. Industrial zones. Industrial zones are divided into manufacturing companies and warehouses. They don't really elaborate too much on the warehouse aspect, other than in that one dev diary, they did talk about how the rail yard or the shipyard functions as a storage facility for goods, so they can just go there and then be redistributed from there. Warehouses will also apparently build up. I don't know if you have to zone warehouses. I don't remember if I saw it in the zoning. I might even put a little edit here and go back and look really quickly. Nope, and this is what I was looking for. In the actual industrial tab, there is only one option, so it will automatically build those warehouses. And I don't know how I feel about that personally, about it automatically building those warehouses, because I don't know if that's going to be enough. I hope that there is a way for us to manually build the warehouses down the road. Maybe it is just a perfect system and it does what it needs to, but being able to build more warehouses where you want them for the actually your industrial area to have the traffic coming to and from, because if a warehouse gets built in the wrong spot, you're gonna have to play whack-a-mole like in Cities 1, which would be very unfortunate. So hopefully that is a very fluid system, having manufacturing warehouses, and we'll learn more about what the warehouses actually do here in a second. Manufacturing encompasses most of the industrial zones as factories and workshops, while warehouses appear here and there, answering to the needs of different companies and their production processes. Warehouses store produced goods that are ready to be shipped further, but are still waiting for transport or suitable buyers. This is why I really hope that we can place the warehouses. They're basically the warehouses from the Cities Skylines 1 Industries DLC, but they just randomly pop up based on demand, and I hope that we can manually place them as well. Local industry can provide your commercial buildings with goods at lower prices and bring in additional tax income. Now, there's something we're gonna see inside of this dev diary about tax income based on education levels. So I think that we're gonna have a much more in-depth tax system in this game than we did in Cities Skylines 1, because they're kind of hinting at here that we can tax, we get more tax income from these buildings based on if their production chain is really efficient. But then in another one, they're saying taxing based on education level. So something to keep in mind and think about in the upcoming diaries. Industrial zones manufacture goods from materials that are either transported from outside connections by delivery trucks or extracted and processed locally in specialized industrial areas. Some goods are sold to commercial businesses who then sell them to customers. For example, food, because we know there's different kinds of good types. While other goods are first sold to commercial businesses where they are further converted into products or immaterial goods, such as beverages turned into entertainment. Industrial zones attempt to sell goods to local buyer first. If there is overproduction of a type of good, the companies will ship the excess product to outside connections. But selling to local markets is always more profitable due to the lower transportation costs. Continuing to sell to outside connections will further decrease the profit as they have to ship goods further and further to new buyers, simulating the eventual oversaturation of the market. Companies in general seek to reevaluate their business every now and then, adjusting the number of employees to match the current business landscape and the market needs. So if you out-export too many of one type of good, that entire business or manufacturer inside your city, so every single factory inside your city will look and say, I can't sell this good for as much. So there's a lot more depth to the actual production of goods in Cities 2. Like, this is a next level in terms of what I expected to get out of the micromanagement of good manufacturing. Like, it almost feels like it's the Industries DLC on steroids, but on a much more micro level. Warehouses appear mixed in with manufacturing industry and provide additional storage for businesses. So right here, this is apparently a warehouse. This is a storage facility right here. Office zones. Similar to commercial zones, office zones are divided into low-density offices with small buildings and high-density offices featuring glass-walled skyscrapers and office towers. Offices produce immaterial goods and services for private citizens and companies alike. Office companies convert technological goods manufactured from the industrial zones into software, and further into immaterial goods such as telecom, finance, and media. So essentially, they take the software that's manufactured by other office industries and then remanufacture that into those three categories. Office zone companies include banks, electronics retailers, law firms, insurance companies, and telecommunications companies. Software is an important type of immaterial good for both industrial and office sectors as they produce various goods. However, software itself isn't sold to private customers. Other goods produced from software, such as telecom, finance, have a wider reach as private customers often benefit from them. Media is sold directly to citizens in the form of consumer electronics, video games, and such. Now, I don't know if those are references to just like, this is what media could mean, or if it really breaks it down from media into these three, and like each one is sold to different groups, right? Like, so maybe the younger audiences will buy the video games, whereas the older audiences might buy the electronics, or like the full adults might buy the electronics, whereas young adults and teens would buy the video games. I don't know if it gets that in depth, but we'll see. This is a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be already, so. Zone suitability. Each zone type has a zone suitability info view, which activates when you start zoning. We saw this when they were selecting the zones. That was the info view that we saw. So that was trying to show us zone suitability. Depending on each zone type, it shows pertinent information about which areas are suitable for the selected zone types. As an example, zoning commercial areas shows information about where the potential customers are located in the city. And we saw that in the commercial info view earlier. While zoning a residential area highlights ground pollution, so it's easy to avoid when zoning. It also shows areas that might be otherwise unsuitable, perhaps due to high land value, making rent for low-density housing very high. Now, we have this cool picture, and we're going to look at it here in a second. But city growth is largely based on different zoning types, needing more space and symbiotic relationships between them. New citizens move in and require housing, which increases residential demand. The new citizens then need jobs and places to go shopping and spend their free time, so industrial and commercial demand increases. As industrial manufacturing increases, they need a place to sell their produced goods, which is also increases commercial zone demand. And as more companies are founded, more job positions become available, which in turn increases demand for residential housing. Constant cycle. Adjusting taxes for different education levels, this is what I was hinting at earlier, as well as various goods produced and sold in the city can have a great effect on local demand. Taxes can be used to favor different goods and goods and products manufacturing in your city, or simply give a helping hand to fledgling industries. So let's take a look at this little picture here. So this right here is our city information. Now, I think this is what happens when you click on the actual zoning button down over here, but this shows us a bunch of information about our city. We have medium density residential demand right here, minus unoccupied buildings, plus happiness, plus taxes, plus students, minus availability of jobs. Not really sure what's going on here. So that means that I'm guessing that there's some empty vacant buildings, or there's no empty vacant buildings. I'm unsure how to read this yet. Same thing can be go for high density residential. Granted, there is a ton of demand for all this stuff, so my assumption is that there is no unoccupied buildings, maybe. Or maybe there is unoccupied buildings, so that's decreasing the demand. So there is a plenty of buildings, and it's decreasing the demand. And what's increasing the demand is happiness, taxes, and students. The taxes are low. There's lots of students maybe in the area, and then there's lots of happiness, so then that increases the demand for these. And then there's not a very high availability of jobs, so that's pretty low. Down over here is the commercial demand. The commercial zones are where shops, boutiques, restaurants, and hotels are. Commercial demand rises when citizens need commerce workplaces as they require more commercial goods and services. So as we can see over here, there's all these different gas station availability. So it seems like gas stations I think cars have to literally go to a gas station commercial. Like they have to go to one that popped up. There's going to be a lot of room for mods in terms of, no, I want to place a gas station specifically right here. That isn't going to be in the base game, which is gonna I'm kidding, I'm so excited. All right, low skill labor availability, high skill labor availability, local demand, and taxes. So this is all very high for commercial. Industry is pretty low. There is unoccupied buildings, but there's also high skill labor availability, low skill labor availability, taxes, and local demand here. So basically this city needs more commercial. That's what I got from this. So you have city demand here and city policies, which you haven't seen anything on yet. So that is what that image is. So let's head back over to the dev diary now and move on to residential demand with a nice little picture here of some shotgun trailer modular homes. Residential demand increases when new citizens want to move in. Citizens moving in for work, students seeking education opportunities, or people simply wanting to move in because the city is an inviting location to raise a family. Families and seniors prefer large apartments, thus increasing low and medium density housing demand. Single person households and students don't shy away from smaller apartments, favoring medium density apartment buildings and high density residential towers. The living costs are also divided amongst the high number of households, making living cheaper in those zone types. Residential zone demand also increases as the jobs in the industrial, commercial, and office sectors become available. So as there's more jobs available, obviously demand goes up. This is pretty straightforward stuff here. Zones require a workforce, and as new workers move in, they demand suitable housing. When unemployment increases and jobs aren't available, residential demand decreases until the issues are remedied. If the city has a large number of built but unoccupied homes, residential demand can decrease until the available homes are occupied. Commercial demand. Commercial zone demand is based on manufacturing, production of goods, sale, availability of potential customers, as well as citizens needing jobs. When industrial zones produce goods, they sell them to them and make a profit. as local market is always more profitable option. They want to sell their goods within the city, which increases the need for local commercial companies. So they will always, they keep stressing it, they will always try to prioritize in-city stuff, and it will increase everyone's money if you do that. However, having goods and products to sell is only half the business. Commercial zones also require enough purchasing power from local citizens to not only survive, but to flourish. Thus, local demand for goods and products is an extremely important factor in commercial demand. Citizens want to buy things for their households, and they also simply want to spend their time in their favorite leisure activities, which includes shopping. Industrial demand. Industrial demand is based on the citizens needing jobs and the manufacturing sector, as well as local commercial companies requiring goods and products to sell. One of the things I'm kind of curious about is the higher level of education that there obviously is going to be in Cities Skylines 2, because there's going to be a university, right? I didn't expect so much detail just from goods. I wonder if job positions are going to be based on the number of, like, a type of education, or if that could potentially be coming in a DLC in the future where, you know, you can make your colleges have a much more specialized feel where, like, when you build a med school, those people can only work in medical with that degree. They can't go work in a factory after going to the med school, right? Because in Cities 1, they would just go to the campus and they might be at the med school building and, like, I guess in theory taking med classes, and then go work in like a level 3 factory afterwards, right? I wonder if that'll be the case for Cities 2, or if maybe down the road that even expands upwards to no, if they go to the medical, if you build a medical campus, you'll have a bunch of people in your city who want to go work in the medical industry. Who knows? I mean, maybe it doesn't, like, that seems really detailed, but again, there's been so much detail in how all of this stuff works in Cities 2 so far that I don't see that as being a far-fetched assumption. Worker availability is one of the cornerstones of the industrial demand. Attracting new citizens to the city directly affects the demand of various sectors, including industrial zones. As companies always seek to optimize their production, they are in search of suitable workers. As companies increase levels, the requirements shift to more educated employees. This leads to increased productivity, efficiency, which in turn manifests into higher profits. Manufacturing also benefits from having local warehouses, store and produce goods, products. And we already kind of heard about the warehouses, but warehouses allow more flexibility and time to seek suitable buyers if no one is currently available, while still keeping production going. And then they don't have to ship it to an outside connection if they don't need to. Then we have our office demand. Office demand is increased by citizens wanting to work in office sector, as well as citizens' businesses needing various immaterial goods that the offices provide. Notice how they said the citizens wanting to work in the office sector. So the office jobs, I would assume then, are much higher demand from your citizens. The citizens want office jobs. They want that cushy, nice chair office job with a nice window outside of their skyscraper. Manufacturing industry and other office companies benefit from software developed in the office zones. As software is produced, more companies appear as they can further develop the software into other services. Depending on the age range of the customers, different types of immaterial goods are preferred. Adults and seniors favor banking services products from the financial sector, while children and teens prefer to consume media products. City specialization. This one's kind of fun. Companies working in the same materials and product and producing the similar products benefit from each other's proximity. Industries in the office concentration area where similar companies already exist, they communicate with each other and have better chances to hire specialized workers to increase the efficiency. As more and more companies produce the same type of products or good, they gain citywide specialization bonuses, which increase their efficiency and thus their profits. So you want to try to keep all of the same industries together and focus on those industries in your city, instead of playing wide game and like playing very diverse and having lots of different stuff being produced in your city. Having all of one type can be really beneficial, and they reward you for doing it as well. So maybe you don't build a certain type of industry in this city and you focus on another one. City specialization can be assigned by setting up specialized industry areas which harvest materials used by the companies, gaining the city specialization bonus. Also, adjusting taxes to be favorable to those products and goods helps the industries develop even further. That's another thing. Can you tax just based on the good itself? Like, I'm so interested to see the budget panel. Just absolutely flabbergasted by some of the language that they're using so far. Land value and building levels. Land value is a tool used to understand locations and which locations are desirable for citizens and companies. It spreads through the roads to the buildings to close neighborhoods, slowly increasing the value of the area in general. Over here we can see the land value chart. Over here, blue means it's very high value, so the areas near the airport are incredibly high land value, as well as some of these other areas. Because of the buildings near them, they radiate and spread their land value to other businesses around them and homes and whatever else is there. If citizens find homes that suit their needs, they move in. If they are happy living there and are wealthy enough, they are able to pay higher rent, which translates in increases in the area's land value. It is important to note that simply plopping all city services into a neighborhood doesn't increase the land value automatically. Only when residents and companies have their needs met, be it with services or shopping options for citizens, customers, and resellers for companies, will land value be affected, as residents of companies feel that the area is valuable for their existence. So they have, not only will be placing those, but also they also have to have every single need met in order to increase their land value. They also have to be able to go to shops. They also have to be able to go to school, and then the land value will start to go up. I think that's really cool. And there's like a trickle effect where like all these businesses around them have it, it'll spread. I really like that. I think that's super cool. If the rent is higher than the upkeep cost of the building, the residents pool their leftover funds into improving the building, which eventually leads to the building leveling up. What is this, social housing? What's going on here? High demand for specific zone types can also increase the rent and thus also the land value, as more people want to move to the city than there are places to live. Dude, what do we got? We got a little communist little co-op housing here. This is great. This is great. To keep the land value in check if needed, you can adjust the various residential taxes, encouraging or discouraging citizens to move in. Also, zoning more of those zone types with high demand can help keep the land value in check as the demand is met. It is possible to simply limit the number of required services and leisure options to keep the land value low. Citizens can tolerate some shortcomings in regard to their needs and still live regularly happy lives. So you don't need to meet every single need that they have. There's some you can just ignore and they'll just be like, yeah, whatever. If the citizen's not willing to pay higher rent, the rent decreases, which also affects the land value of the buildings. This is where it gets really good. Residents will move out if the living costs are too high and they don't feel like their needs are met in the area where they live. And some will even move out of the city. However, if residents continue to not be able to meet the rent costs, the building will start to deteriorate as no money is being used for the building's basic upkeep. The residents then move out in greater numbers and the building becomes abandoned. This further decreases the land value. So the trickle-down effect also works backwards. So not only does it work upwards, it works downwards as well. Abandoned buildings can become occupied by homeless citizens. Does that mean that when a citizen's like, I don't want to live here anymore, do they just become homeless and live on the street? Are homeless citizens a different thing? Are homeless citizens another thing that we're going to have to deal with and manage in our city? What determines a homeless citizen? Just them including this leaves me with tons of questions. But due to the constant disrepair, the building will eventually collapse. So building collapses, much like in the Natural Disasters DLC, are here. They are back. I'm assuming it's much like the abandoned feature in Cities Skylines 1, but just eventually it'll take a next step further and fall over. They go through here and talk about how companies will also do some of the same things that residential buildings will do. There's really not too much to just like read through on stream in just this section, other than similar to residential housing, companies use any money left over from converting the building's upkeep costs to improve the building and eventually level it up. Other than that, we can skip those two paragraphs. Building levels. All zone buildings have building levels from 1 to 5. Building levels represent the progression from buildings from a lower and higher quality building and are reflective of how wealthy its inhabitants are. As a building increases its level, its upkeep increases, which means that its rent also increases. In residential buildings, electricity and water consumption also decrease per household. And as the building changes at levels 3 and 5, more apartments are available in medium and high density residential buildings. In commercial buildings, electricity and water used per 1 unit of goods or products sold decreases. So basically, as the building level is up, it uses less resources per unit, but you might get more units in return. So the building most likely still using more resources, but it's using less resources per citizen or per business. This also means that they can sell them cheaper to consumers, so that actually decreases the cost of goods for consumers. This leads citizens to choose higher level commercial companies over other options because they can produce it cheaper, right? Similarly, in manufacturing and office buildings, electricity and water used to produce 1 unit of goods decreases. Higher level buildings adopt better utility practices, boosting their production efficiency and generating less garbage and pollution. So even higher level ones will produce less pollution as well. Visually, buildings change every other level. As I said, level 1, level 3, and level 5, they'll change their look. Lower level buildings have an intended cheaper look, while higher level buildings adopt more of a modern and detailed look. So your buildings will get more detailed and look nicer, encouraging you to level them up. The rest of this dev diary is on signature buildings. So let's go into the signature buildings. The signature buildings are really cool. They're free to place once you unlock them. They're basically unique buildings and kind of like the level up towards monuments. I don't really understand. They make a comparison to unique buildings either in the video or in this diary, and I don't really understand what makes them different or if we are replacing unique buildings with signature buildings. So let's dive into this. All right, with zone types and demand covered, it's time to talk about signature buildings. There are new features. These are new features in Cities Skylines 2 and can be best described as unique ploppable zone buildings that fall into familiar categories of residential, commercial, and industrial and office buildings. Each signature building has its own unlocking requirements, such as the Sculptor Mansion, which I believe this is the Sculptor Mansion, having 3 requirements: reaching a certain progression milestone, attaining a specific citizen happiness level, and having a number of cells zoned within with low density residential housing. So these just kind of feel to me like the monument buildings, where you had to meet certain requirements for the 5 buildings that each monument building needed, but they're also regular service buildings. Like, it's not just a park. Like in Cities 1, those unique buildings were just basically parks. These ones are actually functioning buildings. Once met, the buildings become available. They can be placed anywhere on the map, similar to the service buildings. The building is unique and can be placed only once, but is entirely free to build and can be relocated just like any other ploppable building, and bulldozing it allows you to rebuild it again at a later date. Pretty cool. Residential signature style buildings may vary in size from mansions to medium density apartment buildings to residential skyscrapers. So this is a medium apartment building here. Signature buildings function similarly to regular zone buildings and contribute to zone-based economic cycle. A residential building welcomes new residents, while commercial buildings on offices or factories seek a suitable business to occupy it. So there's also a business that actually has to function inside the structure. The same laws of success and failure affect the companies residing in the signature building as any other business. They require a suitable workforce, compete for the same customers, and try to turn a profit to be successful. Signature buildings allow you to build large commercial buildings, massive factories, or impressive offices, which function like your zone buildings. Each signature building has one or more positive effects. These range from effects affecting the neighborhood to effects that are city-wide. Some affect citizens' well-being in the city's attractive... Dude, there's way too many effects in this paragraph. Oh my god. Some affect citizens' well-being and city attractiveness for tourists, while others improve the city's entire industrial sector or boost high-level education effectiveness and more. Either way, they offer interesting new effects and options for your city. Coder Park provides citywide and local benefits. So let's click on this. So right here, this is the Coder Park building, a modern office building where coffee gets converted into game design, art, and code. 1% of I'm sorry, plus 1% office efficiency citywide. Plus 5% interest in university education citywide, plus 1% university graduation chance citywide, and plus 5 well-being within 1 kilometer. So it provides that local benefit. It requires electronics and turns it into software. Tells you the company over here, the attractiveness, all that other good stuff we know. And then that's kind of just the end of the dev diary. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are excited as I am. I think that this by far is the dev diary that has gotten me the most excited. And if you guys agree, let me know down in the comments. And if you guys thought a different dev diary got you more excited, also let me know down in the comments. That way I know you made it to the end of the video. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys on Thursday for the Dev Insight, which is, I'm sure, if this is chock full of information, the dev diaries are always also chock full of information. And I just can't imagine how much info is going to be in this week's Dev Insight on Thursday. And the team at Colossal Order is on vacation until August, I think. So we won't have any new questions or things on Twitter being told to us or any updates. So if something goes wrong, I'll let you guys know on my YouTube community page, on the community tab of my actual page. So if something doesn't get uploaded or something, I'm not going to produce a video. So I'll let you guys know there if something weird happens and, you know, stuff happens. So anyways, I'll catch you guys on Thursday. Have a good one. Peace.